Welcome to the CU Scoop. I'm your host, Philip Dukes, aka Dukes D Scoop. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram at Dukes D Scoop, and make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Also, please go get a membership. It's in the link in the description. Make sure, I'm not sure what the perks are, but if you want to support, that's the perk in itself for sure. All right, man. We got to talk about Kaidon Salter. Kaidon Salter, the transfer from Liberty. Kaidon Salter, who has 1 year to play. Kaidon Salter, who has a laundry list of stats. Kaidon Salter, former top 50 overall player. Is he the guy? Well, if you checked out my last video, I already talked about why I made a case for Julian Lewis. I made a case for Juju. Well, now I'm going to make a case for Kaidon Salter. When you talk about someone who has athletic pedigree, you talk about someone who's done it at a high level as well, at the high school level, someone who has experience, which I think is invaluable, especially for a playoff team or a team with playoff aspirations. Kaidon Salter has a very, very compelling case as far as to why he can be quarterback one. I think he was brought in for a reason. I think his experience was very attractive to the Buffaloes. I think that he also has ties to the Dallas area, where multiple people on the staff have ties to. When you think about Coach Prime, when you think about Ray Forsett, chief of staff, the ties to the Dallas area may have played a part as well. Ties to former teammates. You think about, and we'll get into that in a minute, to where there are guys who have already played with him and know what his work ethic is like and know about his leadership skills in a very roundabout way. But yeah, I'll get into that a little bit later. So let's start with where the Kaidon Salter story starts. All right, let's go to high school. Kaidon attended Cedar Hill High School in Cedar Hill, Texas. Completed 383 of 659 passes for 5,600 yards and 52 touchdowns to 16 picks, 1,621 rushing yards and 26 touchdowns, and also had a touchdown catch. Committed to play at Tennessee over Auburn. I remember that year. Auburn was really heavily recruiting him. Chad Morris, who was the offensive coordinator back then, that was the guy. But he chose Tennessee. And when you go back to look at his ranking, and Kaidon Salter one of those slouch, dog. Like, people, I think sometimes we can have short memories when it comes to what happens to guys in their careers, but it wasn't that long ago where this is the class that Kaidon Salter came out in. Quarterbacks in front of Kaidon Salter: Quinn Ewers, Caleb Williams, number one draft pick last year, Sam Howard, Drake May, number 3 last year, overall draft pick last year, Brock Vandegrift, who went to Georgia, J.J. McCarthy, another first-round pick last year, who was the quarterback right in front of him. And this is a 24/7 sports rankings. And Kaidon Salter was number 7. So 3 first-round picks in front of him. Now, these are the guys that he was ranked over. Kyle McCord, originally signed with Ohio State. They had a great season at Syracuse. Baron Morton, you may be familiar with, played at Texas Tech. Jackson Dart, committed to USC, who they now say could be the 3rd quarterback selected in the NFL draft. Jalen Milroe, we all know about the quarterback from Alabama. Kyron Drones, Virginia Tech. Garrett Nussmeier, LSU. Preston Stone. And you go down a little bit further. Oh, Luke Altmaier. I mean, it was guys that he was right in front of. And actually, this year's presumed first quarterback taker was also in this class, this Shedeur Sanders. So he was highly regarded. This isn't like this was a guy who committed to Liberty out of school, got to Tennessee, had a couple of run-ins, didn't really adjust well to college life, had a couple of run-ins, and was dismissed from the team at Tennessee before he really got his footing down. But at the time when he committed, Tennessee had the number 2 recruiting class in the country, and he was the crown jewel. I definitely remember how bad Auburn wanted him out of high school. The second time, I thought it was an interesting story, but so his second run in Tennessee, he was actually with Amari McNeil, and he got in trouble. He took the rap, admitted to the wrongdoing. He said, this is my fault. Amari McNeil was with him, and he stood up and took accountability. Go read the story about what happened in Tennessee. But Kaidon took the responsibility. I looked at that and I said, okay, you got some leadership qualities. And the reason I say that is because, of course, you shouldn't be getting into trouble, right? But if you are going to get into trouble and you're a quarterback, a lot of times when you're in that premium position or you're quote unquote the guy, you expect people to do things for you when it comes out. Well, I can't get in trouble. I'm the quarterback. He manned up to it, admitted his mistakes. He was dismissed. What did he do? He got his stuff together. He got his stuff together, went to Liberty, and commenced to ball out. And I thought that was interesting that Amari McNeil was the guy who was in the car with him as you saw Amari McNeil on the defensive line, somebody who started to come into his own last year, had a phenomenal game against Texas Tech that I think he had a sack and a half or 2 sacks. So someone who can already vouch for him in that locker room and say, oh yeah, K-Sau's a real one. Like we really, really like he's a guy that I got some respect for sure. Let's go look at what he did when he got to Liberty. All right, red shirt the first year. I know may have been expecting to come in and play. Part-time starter year 2. He did cool. Year 3 is when he took off. Let's talk. We can year 3, Liberty 2023. Man, player of the year candidate. That's when he really, really bust onto the scene. He completed 177 out of 290 passes, 61% completion percentage, 2,876 yards, 40 touchdowns, 6 picks, quarterback rating of 176. Oh yeah, if that wasn't enough, he added another 1,089 yards on the ground and another 12 touchdowns. He accounted for 52 touchdowns in 2023 at Liberty. Led them into a big time bowl game against Oregon. Oregon was good that year. Now they got shellacked, but Kaidon played well. 2024 is the season where everybody said, okay, this is where you get down on Kaidon Salter. Didn't have the best year. There was a lot to be desired as far as where people thought Liberty was going to be. They still performed well. Before I get there, I just want to look. Let's just dive a little bit back into that phenomenal 2023 year. Man, this dude, number 3. Let's his final stat rankings. He was number 3 in rushing touchdowns by a quarterback with 12. Number 3 in passing efficiency at 176. Number 3 in passing yards per completion at 16 yards. Number 3, this is overall in the country. Number 3 in points responsible for with 264. Number 5 in passing touchdowns. Number 5 in points responsible per game. Number 8 in rushing yards per carry overall, including the running back, 6.68. Number 22 in total offense at 283 yards a game that he was accounted for. 29 in rushing touchdowns, 36 in rushing yards, and 38 in passing yards. Phenomenal season. Got a bunch of accolades. Maxwell Award semifinalist. He was in the Davey O'Brien quarterback class of 23. First team all conference, regular season MVP, 4-time offensive player of the week, undefeated regular season, and they were ranked. I mean, so that was the year. So that was the peak of his career. And I want us to hold on and think about that for a little bit longer before we move on. Well, actually, hold on to that. Put that in your back pocket. We'll talk about that a little later. All right, 2024 had 1,886 yards and 15 touchdowns and ran for 587 yards. Honorable mention, All Conference USA. Not the greatest year, not the greatest stats. Lost a couple of games they probably shouldn't have. One being Kennesaw State. who was winless at the time. But you cannot just grade Salter by those stats, those larger stats. Um, he played a lot better than the stats that you would see like that when you read into the box score. Like, hey, he fell off. You missed the injuries and you missed the commitment to the run game that the offense took last year in there. And then the other thing is you also missed one of the most prolific receivers in college football that year, CJ Daniels, who went to LSU originally, is now at Miami. But yeah, CJ Daniels, they had a great relationship. And so when you look at, and I'm gonna get to some stats, some analytics that'll help you understand what he was up against. Now, not to make excuses for him, but he hasn't ever played with a wide receiver core as talented as what he'll be playing with this year. Um, so it's gonna be exciting to see what he will be able to do. Um, we always talk about like explosion. One of the reasons that I like when you look at his athletic profile, it just screams explosion. Well, how many quarterbacks do you know that run the hurdles? In high school, this man ran the 300 hurdles and did well. Um, he didn't just do the hurdles; he did the high jump, the long jump, and the triple jump. All that tells me is explosion. When you think about hips, when you think about ability, when you think about core, all of those are important. So for him to be a jumping event guy, that just tells you the type of athlete that he is. His first when Gabe Brooks actually scouted him, the first time he scouted him in 2019, he saw Jordan Love in him. The second time he saw him, he saw Jaden Daniels. This is Gabe Brooks in 24/7, not me. That's what he's saying. So when you look at the physical profile and the tools that he has, they really profile well to an NFL quarterback. When you talk about explosion, high end arm talent, I mean, he's got a cannon for an arm and the ability to use his legs. He's really a plus athlete. Um, I think where he helps Colorado more than anything when you get out of the stats is the ability to take it to the house at RPO. Um, you're going to see a lot. Well, what I'm hearing from practices, from what they call football school. If you watched any of my Auburn videos, you've seen that I've been doing some behind the scenes of football school. What have people been doing in Colorado? You get a more of a look to understand what people are saying. They're saying Salter, his decision making in the RPO for somebody who's ran it at a high level for so long, his decision making is top tier. Whether he's pulling it or keeping it. But for him to be able to be a guy who they love to say can hit his head on the goalpost, take it to the house, you up the band playing, Kaidon Salter is that guy who can make you pay if you show wrong against RPO, he'll make you pay for it in a major way. Um, when you think about the ability right now, this would be the best line. Now he's going to be playing against more aggressive defensive lines as well, but this will be the way that this first of all, this will be the best offensive line he's been behind. Secondly, what I'm hearing is the way that his arm slides, like him being able to when he's in RPO situations, he has sort of a sidearm thing that he's been doing that's been surprising people. He's getting that ball out fast. He's been very impressive so far from what I'm hearing, and work ethic is there. He wants to work. He wants to be the guy. He didn't come to not be the guy. He came to be the guy, and this is his pretty much his redemption arc. Came out top 10 quarterback in the country. You would think top 10 production. Well, took a step back to take a step forward. Now that he's back in the Power Four, he has a point to prove. Went to the state championship game at 6A as a high schooler. Used to playing in front of big crowds. Probably played in some crowds bigger than he played at Liberty in high school. When you think about being able to pack 20, 25,000 in a high school stadium, that's what they do in Texas. 6A football in Texas ain't no joke. So somebody who's definitely not afraid of smoke, definitely not afraid of the lights, so to speak. I think And when we talk about NFL potential, now this is from NFL Draft Buzz. They profiled him. This was this year. It was updated in 12/4/24. NFL Draft Buzz. They do a great job. Um, they break it down. They say he has some similarities to Tanner Mordecai, Sean Clifford, Keaton Slovis. Nobody that makes you go, "Oh my goodness!" But when you read it, this is what kind of opens your eyes a little bit. Emerged as a dynamic playmaker for Liberty in 2023. Um, plus arm talent with the juice. So these are his strengths. Plus arm talent with the juice to zip throws in the tight windows and stretch defenses vertically. Twitchy athlete with sudden bursts and electric wheels, making him a constant home run threat in the open field. Savvy field general who can influence second level defenders with his eyes and subtle pump fakes. A live arm capable of making all the NFL throws. Hold on to that one because I'm going into some deeper analytics in a minute that's going to make that make sense. Possesses a live arm capable of making all the NFL throws, particularly on outside breaking routes. Remember we said that. Quick trigger and compact delivery. Remember I talked about that sidearm that he was able to do that he's been impressing with. That mitigates his lack of prototypical size in the pocket. Tough as nails with the grit to stand tall against the rush. Shows flashes of being able to get to his second and third primary read. Natural. This is the one I love. This one. Natural alpha dog mentality evident in his ability to rally troops during clutch situations. Wow. I mean, when you talk about a ringing endorsement, that's on NFL Draft Buzz. Make sure you go check them out. They do great work over there. All right, so there's been a lot to do about. Let's get into one specific incident. So, Sam Houston State game. If you go and you Google Kaidon Salter benched, there's a tweet that went out that says from 11/29/24. It says Kaidon Salter may have just been benched. All right, and people took that and ran with it. When he was in the transfer portal and they were saying, the Auburn fans were saying, no, don't get him, Hugh. We need to go get somebody else because he got benched. He got benched last year. He got benched. And it's because there's this singular tweet out there that says it looks like he just got benched, right? 7 for 21 passing at the time. When you go look at the game, you'll see that stat line was the least indicative of how that game was played. They lost 20-18. They went for 2 and didn't get it at the end. They were down 17-2 into the third quarter. Kaidon was battling an ankle injury that whole game. Of all the times this season, last season, where he had a minimum of 9 rushes in every game, except for this one. He only had 3 rushes. He had a bum wheel. You can see him visibly limping. This was the game of all the games where he had 400 yards passing and all the games where he had, or 300 yards passing and 100 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns and all of that. This was the game that showed me who Kaidon Salter was. Remember in that breakdown where they just say he's tough as nails? Well, playing that, when you go back and watch the game. And they have a good snippet on YouTube where you can go watch 8 minutes of the game. And it takes you through every key possession. Sam Houston State dominated that game from beginning to end. But in the third quarter, pushing off, basically not even push, all arm strength. When I tell you, this man threw a 16-yard dot, maybe 12, 14, somewhere in there, intermediate dot, all arm, all zip. I mean, it was like, and literally put it where only the wide receiver could get it for them to get on the board or for them to get into the end zone without being able to push off the ankle, all arm, dot. So in this game, he wasn't able to run, which basically in that offense, if you can't run with the quarterback, you pretty much dead to rights. You gotta have some juice back there. So when they talked about being benched, this man was hurt. He was being evaluated. The man was hurt. They didn't know if this guy was gonna be able to finish the game. Comes back in. No, not the best game. I think he went 13 for 35. but he was injured. I want to make sure that people realize that wasn't just a benching because he can't do it. Man was hurt. Secondly, where they talked about being able to lead your troops in clutch situations, they lost that game to a good Sam Houston State team who ended up 9-3 in the regular season and who had probably one of the top edge rushers in the transfer portal, and Chris Murray, who's drawing rave reviews in Auburn right now. But with a minute left, balls on the 32, 33-yard line, minute left, they're down 8. Kaidon Salter only had 2 rushes up to that point. Hadn't ran the ball all game, wasn't able to. He literally sucked it all up and said, you know what? Forget that. I got to score. And he takes off. And when I mean he took off like a bat out of where, he did. And he scores the touchdown, 30-yard rush, and he's visibly limping as soon as he scores. You see him walking off, he's limping. Bum ankle, but gave it everything that he had. Rallied the troops for a chance to win. They didn't get the 2-point conversion. They end up losing the game. But that game right there showed me so much of who Kaidon Salter is as far as his leadership ability. All right, let's get into these analytics. Let's break down these stats because everybody wants to talk about, Kaidon stats. He only completed 53%, 51%, 50%. Well, he actually completed 58% of his passes, right? All right, let's go with – we don't want to go rushing numbers yet. Yeah, let's go – yeah, let's do this. This is what I think when you look into the numbers, what made Kaidon Salter special. Him being able to test the defense down the field. He had 51 attempts on passes 20 yards or better. All right, only 13 completions. You're probably like, all right, well, that's not great. So 13 completions, 51 attempts. What you would think that his passing grade would have been, passing grade probably would have been like 50, maybe 60. PFF graded him at a 90.5 when he threw the ball 20 yards or better. Drops, had 4 clear drops, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks. On the 3 picks, those were the only 3 teams. That was on every time that he threw a ball that was off, it was either boom or bust. But he did throw 3 picks, but those were the only 3 interceptable balls that he threw out of those 51 attempts. He did have the 4 receiver drops, but the 90.5 grade. And he also had he only had 3 TWPs. Now I'm getting this from PFF Premium. And I know it's my favorite thing to do is go stat diving. But when it comes to big time throws, he had 6 big BTTs, big time throws, whereas like only 1% of the world can throw. When you talk about being able to stretch the field vertically, not being afraid to taking those chances and grading out highly, that tells me that when he plays with a better complement of receivers, that number's going to go up. When he had CJ Daniels, that number went up. So the supporting cast is going to be huge as far as what they're able to do when they stretch the field. And we know anything about my man Sherman, Coach Sherman, he's going to try you downfield. Perfect guy for this. All right. This is what I really want to get into. So on passes of between 10 yards and 20 yards, usually should get you a first down. He was 40 for 70. And when you include drops, his adjusted rate, he had 6 drops on these. 46 for 70. Over 60%, 65% of completion rate when he does throw the ball. When he did throw the ball between 10 and 20 yards. 8 touchdowns, 2 picks when he threw the ball. Passer rating, NFL passer rating of 117. And his PFF grade on throws between 10 and 20 yards, 90.2 again. For those of you that follow me, you know that PFF breaks it down to where 90 is about the best you could do. Now, if you're 100, it's not even real. 90 is like 100 in their world. When he threw the ball down the field, it wasn't a lot of people better than him in the country pushing the ball down the field as far as the way that PFF breaks it down. Yeah, the completions weren't always there, but did he do his job? Did he identify that, hey, this ball needs to go downfield and I'm going to put it in a place where somebody can make a play on it from my team? He graded out as an A. Deep ball, an intermediate ball thrower, they graded him as an A. When you talk about an offense last year that wanted to be patient and take their shots at times, he got for the right plan, right man. Kaidon Talton. All right, I'm gonna tell you why those stats are even more important. So when he was kept clean in the pocket last year, he had 14 touchdowns and 2 picks. Okay. When he was blitzed, he had 6 touchdowns and 2 picks. Talking about being blitzed, all right. So in situations where you're blitzed and you got to make the right read, the reason he was able to perform so well when it came to, when I say well, his individual performance, not the true outcome, but the way he was graded, he graded out highly because when he when he graded out, even when he ran, when he was blitzed, 91.6 grade. He was graded at a 91.6 when he ran when he was blitzed. Basically, every time they blitzed and he was supposed to take off, he took off and he did well when he got down the field. Explosion. This man had 8 design runs last year for over 15 yards as a quarterback. 8 times he had a breakaway play. They call those breakaway plays. He had 8 breakaways last year. When you think about playing Power 4 football, for you to be able to get on the other side or even at Group of 5 playing the Conference USA, for you to be able to slide out and ride out. So a guy who could break the big run, who has a big arm, and can also make the intermediate throws, that's a dangerous combination. Tough guy. This man ran for 42 first downs. This is last year. This ain't the 2023 All-American year. This is 2024. Ran for 42 first downs. And when you talk about toughness, we talked about the toughness with the ankle, but he had 400 yards after contact. After he was touched as a quarterback, he ran for another 400 yards, 402 yards after contact. So I'll leave you with this. When you talk about someone who has respect in the locker room already, going back to the situation with Amari McNeil, when you talk about someone who's played Power 4, who's played Power 4 football, start off at Tennessee, someone who's been able to pick it up fast, someone who has experience with RPOs, someone who can break the big run. And when you think about RPO, run, pass option, did really well in RPO situations. Someone with a big arm, a cannon for an arm, and someone with experience. He's played. He knows what it's like to play Oregon in the bowl game. It's going to be hard if Kaidon Salter comes to play. It's going to be hard not to give him that number 1 spot. I'm really looking forward to this quarterback competition. I've made the case for Juju. I've made the case for K-Salt. You put in the comments who you think should win. I don't think nobody will know until game 1. But this thing is going to go down to the wire, and it's a great problem to have if you're a Colorado Buffalo fan. All right, that's my time. Phillip Dukes, a.k.a. Dukes D-Scoop. Check me out on Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you subscribe. If you don't do anything else, subscribe. And also, if you want to support me, go become a member, please. And I thank you. All right, I'm out.